Mike North here on Fox Sports Radio, XM 142. We're out at the Super Bowl. We're pleased to have on one of the great coaches. I mean, you're talking the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, everybody thinks it was all about the greatest show on turf and everything else. Oh, no, this guy's got some history to him. One of the great coaches in the NFL. Been to a few Super Bowls with Philadelphia and with the Rams. It's Coach Dick Vermeil. Hi, Coach.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. First of all, let's get some business out of the way. What do you get? I know you want to see the football game, and you're going to watch it, and you're down there glad-handing, but are you there for another business reason, my friend?
Well, we're marketing Vermeil wines. You know, I was born and raised in the Napa Valley, and I turned a hobby a few years ago with some friends into a full-fledged business, and gone from 150 cases of wine a year to 5,000 cases of wine, and Vermeil Cabernets and Zinfandel, Charbonneau, Cabernet Franc, and we have a nice little business going, and we have a nice tasting room in Calistoga. We're involved with a 170-acre vineyard, the Freddie Annie Vineyard in the Napa Valley, and that lady who owns that vineyard was my babysitter, was actually with us since I was born 74 years ago, and her daughter runs our Vermeil tasting room, and her son-in-law is our winemaker. So we have a nice little business going, but we're losing money. Other than that, we're doing well.
You know what? There's nothing like starting a new business, because I know I've done numbers. Nothing like losing money the first year, is there, Coach? I mean,
yeah.
You know, but you got to keep your nose to the grindstone, right? Just like football.
Just like coaching football. Our first season in it, we were about 4-12. Second season, we went about 6-10, or hoping to go 8-8 this year.
Well, you know what, Coach? You know what? A lot of people love wine, and believe me, your name being attached to it has a lot of credibility to it. So we wish you nothing but the best with that. And then now we got to talk about what are the reasons you're down there. The game of football, the game that you love.
You bet.
First of all, let's talk about Green Bay and Pittsburgh. Let's talk about maybe lack of momentum because maybe the weather, people haven't been able to get around, the situation with Dallas. I don't think it's going to affect the game because it's indoors. So basically, it should be a good football game. It's going to be played in great conditions. Who do you like in this one?
Well, if I were a bettor, which I am not, I'm not a gambler.
Oh,
in fact, I have two sons, you know, early 50s, and they don't ask me who's going to win anymore, because if they bet on it, they lose because they take my advice. But if I were a gambler, I would bet on Pittsburgh Steelers, because I base it on they've played a tougher schedule throughout the year and ended up with a better win-loss record. That usually means you're a better team. But, you know, Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers with momentum in that receiver core, if you give him time, he's going to beat you. I think it'll come down to which team does not turn the ball over. You end up +1 or +2 in this ball game, you're going to win it. And that's just the way I feel about it. And it'll be a great football game. And I just hope it doesn't come down to a bad call or a pass interference call that allows a receiver to advance the ball 60 yards to the 1-yard line that decides who wins the ball game. I hope it's a good, clean, penalty-free game.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I talk to Mike Pereira every week here on Fox Sports Radio because he does work for Fox, and we talk to him every Sunday night. The one thing that just sticks in my craw is the pass interference call. I don't believe any penalty should be a 45-yard penalty, especially when, I would say this, 3 out of 4 times these guys are right, but that one time could just shift the momentum and kill the team. And then when you watch it on the replay, it's not reversible. I think they got to do something about that rule.
Well, I don't think they'll ever change it, but it's so discouraging when, especially a great big game of this magnitude, the biggest of all games, is decided by something like that. And hopefully it will not. It'll come down. Hopefully the best team wins game day. That's it.
Let me ask you this, Coach. When you went to the Super Bowl the first time as a coach, what was the one, I'm sure you were a button-down guy. You made sure everything was set.
Right.
You made sure, you know, that there's no stone unturned. What was the thing the first time you went down there? What was the one thing that surprised you that maybe you didn't expect? Coaching.
Well, let's see. First off, the weather at that time of year in Philadelphia was lousy. Mm-hmm. So we went to Tampa Bay and prepared, you know, as a team. Mm-hmm. You know, when we got down to New Orleans, it was rainy and that kind of thing. And I think I was a little too uptight as a young head coach, and I probably passed that on to my squad. And I don't think that helped them. But, you know, we went in, of our first 4 wide receivers, we only had one of them that could play in the game, and that really hurt us, especially against a press, bump, and run coverage team like the Raiders were at that time. And, you know, they beat us. We were -3 in turnovers. There's no way we're going to win a Super Bowl that way. And so they beat us. And but, you know, the other thing I learned about that, having been given the opportunity to go back a second time and win. It takes the same thing to go to a Super Bowl and lose as it does to go there and win. Your football team has to be good enough to get there. You know, unlike the NBA or Major League Baseball, it's not a series the best of 7 wins the World Series or the NBA championship. It's the best of 1. And you just have to learn to respect the opportunity to be there and appreciate the fact, even if you lose the football game, what a great accomplishment to get there.
You know what? It's hard for a Tiger to change his stripes. I always, when I watched you on the sidelines, I've been watching football for almost over 40 years now. You always did seem, you would laugh every so often, but you said you were a little uptight. Isn't that a natural thing for most head coaches that go down to the Super Bowl? And you try to guard against it, but you can't change what has made you. Not that you were uptight, but you know, sometimes you just look that way. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, no question. No question. But I'll tell you this, when I went back, you know, 20 years later as the head coach, I never went into a football game in my life, I think, that I was more confident we could win. Because I took the best football team with me. I mean, it was a very, and we're playing indoors. And, you know, it came down to one play, and we're fortunate to win the football game. But we were a good enough team that if we played that team 5 times, we'd have beaten them 3 times. You know, I really believe that. But we won that ball game, but I was much more relaxed. And the other thing is, I wanted our players to go in the ball game believing they were going to win. I didn't want them to be afraid of losing. You're afraid of losing, you just don't play as well. You're playing defensively rather than aggressively, and just turning yourself loose and letting yourself fly and play up to your ability. So, you know, I learned a lot about big games, having had the opportunity to be in one twice. I was in a Rose Bowl once too, and won that. And in college, that was just as big as the Super Bowl to me at that time. So, you know, I learned a lot through those experiences.
Yeah, with Coach Dick Vermeil and the couple minutes that we have left with you, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. You know what? When you would cry, you know, sometimes it would make a lot of people maybe uncomfortable, but you cried out of joy. Now we see John Boehner crying, okay? I think you made it fashionable for a leader who wins to show his emotions. But you would cry maybe after the game. John Boehner will cry when he's walking up the stairs for the State of the Union speech. I got to believe that you made it fashionable. Men wear pink shirts now and everything else. It's not a bad thing to cry, but are there certain jobs that you would say to yourself, you know what, I wish the guy hadn't wept? Football coaching was one of them, but you didn't make it. You wore your heart on your sleeve, and people respected that.
Well, thank you. You know, you are what you are. And I used to say to myself, Dick, do not get emotional. I am not. I know I'm in an environment, in a situation where many times I've gotten emotional, and I would discipline myself not to, and I would end up being emotional. It's just me. And a long time I thought it was a fault. I really did, and I felt guilty about it. And later on, as I matured as a person and gained a little more confidence and understood myself better, I just quit worrying about it. I think it's more important to be yourself.
I agree. And before we let you go, I'll tell you one of the shocking things that I remember that I always remember is that you came back to coaching. I thought once you left the Eagles and they talked about burnout and they talked about this and they talked about that, and you were so good at broadcasting. I was actually stunned when you went back down from the broadcast booth. How hard a decision was it at the time? Because you were pretty well set, Coach, and you had made yourself a name, not only like Bob Greasy, not only in football and the game of football, but as a broadcaster.
Well, it was a tough decision, but, you know, I had been offered the Ram job every time it was open. I was offered a number of other jobs through that 14-year period. And by the time I finally took one, I said, you know, if I turn down one more opportunity, it'll be too late, I'll be too old, and no one will ask me. So I went ahead and did it because I had a relationship working for Georgia Frontier before. I was a young assistant there with Chuck Knox and Tommy Prothro when the Rosenblums came to the team, came to Los Angeles. So she knew me and had confidence in me, and she had offered me the job before. And John Shaw, as her president, knows that, and he because he was the guy I talked to. But anyway, I just said, you know, no one's going to do it. No one's going to offer me one another at another time, so I better do it. And I'm so glad that I did. It made me realize how much I missed it once I got back in it.
No doubt. And you're an entrepreneur, and I've had a lot of business too. So one more time, Coach, if somebody wants to try to find out where to get the wine, I'm sure there's a website somewhere they can go. Is there somewhere they can go and check this thing out?
VermeilWines.com. Or you just Google Vermeil Wines, and you'll see it right there. VermeilWines.com is our website, and I think the website's well done, easy to operate. You can buy wine online and ship it right to you. And so one day we'll be in Chicago too. We'll be in Chicago.
What we'll be looking for. We'll go to the local Benny's and check it out. Coach, we appreciate it very much. Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Dick Vermeil, live from the Super Bowl here on Fox Sports Radio, FoxSportsRadio.com and XM.
His